This is To Help You Heal, and I'm your host, Marie Monville. We are going to spend 10 minutes talking about healing. What kind of healing do you need? Is it in your mindset? Is it emotional healing? Is it spiritual healing? You know, there's a lot of healing that we all need, and this is where you're going to find it every week, 10 minutes on Tuesday. I'm so glad you're spending this time with me. Well, we are halfway through October. If you are listening to this podcast about the time that I set it out, it's around October 15th for you. And I don't know about where you live, but here in Pennsylvania, it's as if we suddenly made the shift to fall. I get that fall officially kicked off a few weeks ago, according to the calendar, but it hasn't really felt like fall until this week. Yesterday brought a drop in the temperature. It was windy. You know, I'm looking around outside as I'm on my favorite path. The leaves are changing, and not only are they changing, but they're falling. And it made me think about the shift in seasons. And so that's what I want to talk about today in this place of, giving ourselves the grace and the space to heal and to be the best version of ourselves, to find and become the person that God has created us to be. I think sometimes we get too caught up in moving forward and we don't spend enough time reflecting. Maybe this is true for you. It's definitely been true for me in seasons of my life. But if there's one thing that I try to do more frequently now, it's reflect. Because there's a lot that we can gain and gather as we look back across, whether it's a day or the span of weeks, months, whatever it is. And so I'm going to walk you through this whole seasonal transition in two ways. But the first place is I want to ask you to think about this past season for you. The season of summer, the weeks kind of comprised between mid-end of May and now here in October. What did that look like for you? How did that feel? If you think about these past few months, is there a word or a phrase that you would use to describe them? What is that? And maybe you don't know off the top of your head. Maybe you need more time than just trying to figure it out here on the spur of the moment as you're listening to the podcast. And if that's you, that's okay. You can use this as a guide for your reflection time and then come back and actually do the reflecting and think about it once you've had some time to just sit in that space of, what would you call this past season? How would you describe it? Maybe it felt long to you. Maybe it was intense. When I think about my past season, especially coming down the end of this season of summer per se, I would say it was very intense. It was a pace that kept me moving, and I did fine while it was happening. But I think, as I've spent the time reflecting since, there are some key takeaways. I had completely forgotten until this weekend that I like to plan my meals on a Sunday. I like to think about what is it that we're eating for dinner the rest of the week and plan that out based on, what I have on hand and what I feel like making and what our schedule looks like. I honestly don't know the last time I did that, but I would think it was somewhere back in August. And so for me, it's been a little bit of a place to say, what are the things that really are important to me? What are the things that I do that help me feel more in control of my schedule or just not feel stressed to come into a week being able to say, okay, I have a good handle on things. It's not just the meal planning, but it's sort of how I approached my week. I structured my schedule this morning so that I was able to sit down and do some catching up from the weekend, plan ahead, get dinner started, any part of that I needed to do. And it's simple things like that. I mean, it happened in the span of 15, 20 minutes, but it made me feel so much more in control of today and in control of the week ahead. And I think sometimes, in these spaces of reflection, we can think, oh, it's going to take me a long time to figure that out, or whatever I need to do coming out of that period of reflection, it's going to be hard to institute, or I just don't have the time for this. I want to encourage you that you can probably do it in 15 or 20 minutes. I think as we are reflecting and seeing, hey, what worked for me in this past season? What didn't work? What would I do the same? What would I change? What do I need to change right now? What's the one thing I need to do in this moment that's going to set me up for success, that's going to help me feel good, that's just going to give me back some of the control, maybe in spaces that felt a little bit chaotic? I would encourage you to think about that and then to just ask yourself, what's the one thing I need to do now? I know for me coming out of this season, there's a couple things I need to do, but really the first thing that I needed to do now was make sure that I'm doing my meal planning on the weekends and make sure that I'm allocating that space on Monday morning to catch up and to plan ahead. It just gave me so much peace coming into the week. So, what's your thing? As you reflect on this season, what are your takeaways? What would you do the same? What would you change? And what's the one thing that you need to work on right now? And let's plan that 15 or 20 minutes to actually get that started. Because the thing is, if we don't plan when we're doing something, a lot of the times we just end up not doing it. It's kind of the reason behind why all the times that we say, hey, I'm going to start that workout program or I'm going to change my eating habits on Monday. We think about that at the end of the week beforehand and we don't actually follow through because there was too much space and time from the thought process to the actual action. So let's dial that back. Best case scenario is taking that action step within 24 hours. But even better is just saying, I'm going to take 15 or 20 minutes to do it right now. Doesn't mean that you have to get everything done. Just give yourself that space to be able to process, to decide what's the one thing you need to do right now, and then actually do it. So that's the first part for me of saying, hey, the seasons are changing. What does this kind of impress upon me? And then, the other part of that is being able to say, how do you feel about the past season? And not just in the things that you want to change or that you want to do, but how did that season feel to you? And what do you feel like God was speaking to you in that place? What can you glean from this season? What's a theme that you want to take away? What is, a lesson per se that you learned? What is something that you found out about yourself or about the Lord? What's the thing that you want to carry over with you into this next season? Because I believe that, God speaks to us and that he is leading us. And there are things that we can glean as we look back across the seasons of our lives. And maybe for you, summer was a place of just some lighthearted fun. And maybe it's the reminder to keep infusing fun into your day-to-day and into each season, regardless of what it looks like. Maybe for you, it was the opposite. Maybe summer felt long and drawn out and difficult, and you were just kind of waiting to get to fall. Well, why was that? What is it that you were sensing or feeling or praying about or hoping for that made it feel long and drawn out? What does God want to say to you in that place? Where do you sense him leading you? And I think it's in these moments of reflection when we're able to tap into the bigger picture, when we're able to see the theme, that sometimes a season that felt really discouraging, we see it completely differently. We come away with something powerful and, something that we missed in the moment, but we're able to see on the backside. And the reason that I structured this session by saying, okay, let's talk about the thing that we want to change and let's figure out how we're going to do it and let's start doing it in that 15 to 20 minutes is because I think if we've done that, we're going to be better able to see the theme or to think about the season a little bit more objectively, to look for the good. Once we've already cleared out some of those other things from our mind, it's easier to have those big picture thoughts rather than being so stuck in the details. So when you think about how you would describe the past season, if you can think about that objectively, what do you feel like is the key for you? What do you know about that season? What do you want to take with you moving forward, even in that place of reinforcing who you are, who God's created you to be, how he's showing up in your life? Because I think it's important for us to look forward to the new season. I get that sometimes when a season comes to a close, we feel a little bit sad because of things we're going to miss in the new season, but there's always some good that we can take with us. What's the good that you're taking with you from this past season into the next one? Where are you going to be challenging yourself or looking for the good in yourself, looking for the good in God? What do you want to see going forward into the fall? And it is beautiful, I think sometimes we need the reminder just to look at the beauty, to be able to see those leaves that are starting to change color and just take it in, To capture the goodness of this season, we have to be able to look at it from a fresh perspective. So that's what I have for you today. What do you see when you look at the past season? What do you need to change going into this season? Or maybe it's something you're going to keep the same. What's that thing for you? What's the theme of what this season has taught you, what you've learned about yourself, places that you've healed, challenges that you've set for yourself, goals that you've achieved? And then as you think about the season ahead, what's in that? Where do you want to find God? What do you want to see? This is going to be a power-packed couple months. Here we are, middle of October, then we have November and December, and before you know it, we're going to be closing out the year. How do you want to end the year? How do you want to feel about it? Not just all the things you want to do, but how you want to feel about it. What do you want to know about yourself? What are the places where you still need to heal? Thanks for spending these 10 minutes with me today. I hope you'll come back next week for the next episode of To Help You Heal. I'm passionate about helping you to live a life that you love regardless of circumstance. And I thank you for joining me in the journey. If this has been meaningful to you, maybe you know somebody else that it would resonate with. Go ahead and share it with your friends. I'll come back here next week and we'll continue the conversation together.